another segment of Wisdom Window. In our last lesson, we talked about how to measure the combination of a square and a rectangle to find the area of a huge figure with different lengths and widths. We also practiced our knowledge of area and how to solve it within a grid and without a grid using measurements of length times the width or a formula. And we also brought up some confusion that we might have had about perimeter and area, and how perimeter is adding all the sides of a shape in a fence line around the shape. And then the area is multiplying the length times the width to find out the inside of the shape. So perimeter we added and area we multiplied. So today we're going to continue using that knowledge of length times width and area to solve for something new. And so I don't know if you've noticed, but we do have a new vocabulary word today, and that is the distributive property. And so what do you think of when you hear distributive? What part of that word sounds familiar? Did you say distribute? Yeah. So, and that's actually going to be a really significant part of understanding the distributive property. And so what the distributive property is it lets you multiply a sum by multiplying each add-in separately and then the products. So what's the sum and then what's a product? Do we remember what those are? So a sum is when we add, multiply is when we multiply, and then a product is like our answer or a solution. So a distributive property looks something like this, where you have A, and then you multiply B plus C. So this is like the formula for distributive property. Okay? And what distributive property looks like to solve is we're going to take this number and multiply it to the B, so it would be A times B, and then we're also going to multiply the A times the C, which is going to look like A times C. And then we have this addition symbol right here. And what that's telling us is that since we multiplied A times B and A times C, we're going to add the product of both of those to find our area. Okay? And so now I'm going to show you an example of this before we get into our workbook page. Okay, so distributive property helps us solve problems of area, but just in a different way. So let's say that this is a particular piece of area that you want split into different parts, like a garden. Let's say that on this side of the garden I want to have tomatoes and cucumbers, lettuce, and then on this side of the garden I want fruit, like apples and oranges and other types of fruit. So I'm going to split my area right here. I want a lot more veggies than fruit. But we still want to find the area of our garden because we want to know the area of the entire garden. So to solve this using distributive property, first I'm going to just do my normal thing. I'm going to find my length and my width because that's going to be really important. So first I'm going to do my length. So I'm going to count, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So my length is 4. And we're just going to say feet because I want a pretty good sized garden. And then we're going to measure the width. And now this is going to be a little bit different and it's going to look a little different too. So first we're going to use the area or the width of the vegetable garden. And I'm going to write that in green. And then I'm going to find the width of the fruit garden. And I'm going to put that right here in orange. Together, they equal this whole side of the garden. But I want to find the area of this and this as well. So my area of the vegetable, or the width of the vegetable garden is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 feet for the vegetable garden width. And then for the fruit area, we have 1 and 2. So we have 2 feet for this part of the garden. So now to find the area of the entire garden, as well as each of the different parts, we're going to use that distributive property. And to do that, I'm going to use these different colors to help us understand. So we have a length of 4 feet. That's the same no matter what we do. The only thing that's different is our width. So we have 4 as our length, and then we're going to multiply inside the brackets our widths. Okay? So our first width is that vegetable garden, and the width of it is 4. So I'm going to write in 4. And then we have the width of our fruit garden, and that is 2. So I'm going to write a 2 there. So now what I need to do is I'm going to use my distributive property and distribute my 4 to multiply the vegetable width and the fruit width. So I'm going to multiply first 4 times 4. 4 times 4. 4 times 4. And now I'm going to distribute this 4 over here as well. And it's going to create 2 different problems. And you'll see that here in just a minute. So then we have our 4 multiplied by 2. Okay, so this is just like our length times our width and length times our width. But we're measuring this side and this side within one entire area. And so now we're going to solve the 4 times 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. Okay. And then we're going to multiply our 4 times our 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. Okay. And then now, to solve for our distributive property and find the area of their entire thing, we're going to add our 16 plus 8. Okay? And so by doing this, we're going to find out our entire amount of boxes, our entire square units of the area of our garden. So we have, I'm going to write it vertically because that's what helps me, 8 and 16. So we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So 16 plus 8 is 24. And it's 24 square feet is our answer. Okay, so then for distributive property, just know that this is going to help us solve problems like this, where we have one figure broken up into 2 different places or more. And so for the distributive property, we had our length, which stayed the same no matter what happened. And then we had our 2 different types of widths that were divided by our line right here. We had our 4 from our vegetable side and our 2 from our vegetable side. We multiplied our length times our first width, and we got 16. And then we multiplied our length times our second width, and we got 8. Bringing those together, we added 16 and 8, and we got 24 square feet as our area for this shape. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Write in the comments if you still have questions, or let me know in our Zoom conversation next time. And then just to connect this to our prior knowledge of finding area, we can also solve it by doing this. We can look at just the entire garden. We can look at our length here. So we have area equals our length, which is 4, times our width, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 4 times 6. And then area equals 24 square feet. And that should be the same as our distributive property answer. And therefore, our problem for area equals 4 times 6 is equal to our distributive property of 4 times 4 plus 2. And that's how you would write your answer for the distributive property questions. Alright, so now since we've had some time to talk about how to use distributive property, I'm going to show you a couple different examples, me modeling and then us working together to solve. Let's go solve some problems. So now I've pulled up my practice problem page 14-5, and that's talking about our area in distributive property. So since we've practiced and learned what the distributive property is, now we're going to practice some of these problems. I'm going to go over 1 and 3 together. So our directions read, write the equation that represents the picture. Okay, so we have a problem kind of like the one that I showed last time, where we have one figure and it's divided into 2 parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write area equals length times the width. That way I don't forget that. So that way I don't forget that formula. But I'm also going to write the distributive property too. So that way I know what I need to find. And I'm going to call distributive property dP. And dP is the same as A times B plus C. And you can also write this as so, if it makes more sense. Here I have the length times width 1 plus width 2. And we're just going to distribute like so. Okay? So let's practice it with this problem. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to measure the length first and then I'm going to find my widths. So I have a length of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I have 4 as my width, or so I have 4 as my length. And I'm going to measure my width. So I have a width of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So my first side, or my first width is going to be 5. And then I'm going to measure my second width, and I have 1 and 2. So my widths are 5 and 2, and then my length is 4. So now I'm going to write this as my distributive property I'm going to solve. And now I'm going to use a scratch piece of paper because I feel like I need a little bit more room to work. So I'm going to use the formula for distributive property, which is the length times the first width plus the multiplication of the length times the second width. So to solve, I'm going to write my length of 4 times my first width of 5, and then I'm going to add my second width of 2. I'm just color coding it because I feel like it helps a little bit when you're first learning how to solve for distributive property, but if you would like to write with just a pencil, just a pen, or any other utensil, that is just fine. So first I'm going to look at these two. So I have my length of 4, and I'm going to multiply that by my first width of 5. So I have 4 times 5. Okay, and I'm going to just solve for that. So I have 4 times 5. So let's see, we have 5, 10, 15, 20. We have 20. And then now I'm going to distribute my 4 to the 2. And I'm going to solve for that. So we have 4 times 2. And 4 times 2 is 8. And so now I need to add my two products, my product of 20 and my product of 8. And so 20 plus 8 is 28. And I don't have any square units or anything to use, so I'm just going to write square units. All right, and then to finish my problem and make it really complete, I'm going to solve it for the length and the width, so just a regular area. And so area equals the length times the width. And so my length for this problem is 4. And my width, if I add 5 and 2, I get 7. So my area, 4 times 7, is 28 square units. And so therefore, my answer for this whole problem is going to be that the area of 4 times 7 is equal to the problem of 4 times 5 plus 2. So that our area formula is equal to the distributive property. All right, and so that's what I'm just going to write in my answer box or answer line right here. So we have 4 times 7 equals 4 times parentheses 5 plus 2. All right, and so now I'm going to move on to question 3. We have this figure right here. And so what I'm first going to do is I'm going to find the length and I'm going to find the 2 widths. And just like last time, I'm going to count. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 is going to be my length, and now I need to find my widths. My first width, I'm going to count. I have 1, 2, and 3. So I have a length or a width of 3 there. And now my second width is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so now we have a new problem. And to write this problem, we're going to first find our distributive property. And it's really important to remember that when we use the distributive property, we are still finding the area. It's just a different way to find area since we have 2 different areas within a figure. Okay, so then to write out this problem, I'm going to write 5. We're going to multiply that. So in the parentheses, we have our first width of 3. And then we're going to add that to our width of 6. All right, so let's first solve. We need to distribute our 5 to our first width. So we're going to distribute that. We have 5 times 3. Let me write that out. We have 5 times 3. And now let's solve for that first. 5 times 3. Let's see. 5. Let's see, we have 5, 10, 15. So 15. Then we're going to distribute from 5 to 6. So to write that problem, we're going to do 5 times 6. What's 5 times 6? You should know this one. If you don't, count by 5s. What's 5 times 6? We have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So 5 times 6 is 30. And then to find our area using the distributive property, we're going to add 15 and 30. If you have a hard time seeing the problem like this, you can always write it vertically. So you have 30, 15, we're adding. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 1 is 4. So our answer is 45 square units. Now we're going to connect our knowledge of the distributive property to what we know about area by solving for area. So we have area, and that is our length times our width. We have a length of 5 times, remember we're multiplying for area, we're going to add these 2 widths to make our total width of this side. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so now we need to find the area of 5 times 9. And 5 times 9 is, right, 45 square units. Remember, we write our answer in square units because we are multiplying. If we were not multiplying to find area, then we would not be writing square units. Instead, we would just be writing units. All right, and then to finish up our answer, we would write it as such. We would say that 5 times 9 is equal to 5 times 3 plus 6. Okay, so now I'm just going to write that on my answer line so I complete my work. We have 5 times 9 is equal to 5 times 3 plus 6. All right, well, I hope that was helpful and that you guys were able to understand and learn a little bit more about distributive property. In the next problems, you're going to do the same for number 2. And then for this problem, you're going to use these pictures to figure out which one is equal to this. You might have to solve this first, or you might need to count or something. But I'm going to leave that up to you. Using your knowledge of what we learned to solve these problems, I want you to solve these, or this problem. And then here you're going to solve using this figure, and then you're going to explain. Make sure you're explaining in complete sentences so that way we can understand what you know. All right, and then just as promised, I do have some more trivia and an answer from last time. So our question from last time was, what is the sum of all the even numbers between 1 and 9? Did you find an answer for that one? All right, are you ready for it? It is 20. So when you add up all the even numbers between 1 and 9, it equals 20. Pretty cool. Do you want to see how? I can show you. All right, so when we have numbers 1 through 9, we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then when we look at even numbers, we're looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, looking at those skip count numbers by 2. So we have 2, 4, 6, and 8. And so now it asked us to just add all of those together. So I'm going to add from highest to lowest. We have 8, 6, and I'm going to do 4 and 2. Make 2 separate problems and then I'll add their products. So what is 8 plus 6? Good. Okay, 14. And then what is 4 plus 2? Good. Okay, so we have 6. And then since we have these 2 products, we're going to add those 2 together to get the total number. So we have 14 plus 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. Good. And then we're going to carry that 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Therefore, if you add up the numbers between 1, or the even numbers between 1 and 9, you're going to get 20 as your answer. Pretty cool, right? All right, and so now I have another question for you from my trivia book, and that question is, what is the largest animal on Earth? What is the largest animal on Earth? Do you know? All right, we'll find out next time. Until then, stay well, stay happy, stay safe. I miss you guys so much. Bye.